If you've ever pressed your fingers into your garden soil and felt nothing but dust or hard, lifeless clumps, you know the sinking feeling. Dead soil is stubborn, it doesn't hold water, it resists plant roots, and it starves everything growing in it. Many gardeners are told it takes months or even years to bring soil back to life. But what if that wasn't always true? What if there were ways to wake up the underground world of microbes in a matter of days, turning a barren patch into a living, breathing ecosystem? When I first started testing these methods, the change was almost unbelievable. Within a week, a section of my garden that had been pale, dry, and silent was suddenly full of worm activity, the smell of healthy earth, and the kind of crumbly texture plants dream of growing in. Microbes, billions of them, were back at work, and the soil went from sterile to supercharged faster than I thought possible. The good news is, you don't need expensive products or rare ingredients to make it happen. You just need to give soil life exactly what it's missing, and in the right order. Today, you'll see exactly how to do it so your garden can rebound almost instantly. Dead soil isn't just dry or compacted, it's biologically inactive. Healthy soil contains countless bacteria, fungi, protozoa, nematodes, and other microscopic life that form the foundation of the soil food web. These organisms break down organic matter, release nutrients in plant-available forms, and build soil structure. Without them, even if you add fertilizer, plants struggle because there's no living system to process and deliver those nutrients. Soil life can die off for many reasons. Prolonged chemical use, repeated tilling, leaving soil bare under harsh weather, or simply not adding organic matter. In this state, the soil becomes like an empty house, structure without inhabitants. Reviving it is about restocking that house with the right tenants and giving them food, water, and shelter so they can multiply quickly. So to restart microbial activity, the first move is introducing an immediate food source. Microbes, they respond a whole lot faster to fresh, easily digestible organic material than they do to slow decomposing matter. Just think in terms of soft, green plant material, fruit scraps, and other nitrogen-rich inputs. Nitrogen is really the spark that gets their metabolism running. One of the fastest options, honestly, is blending kitchen scraps into a slurry with water and pouring it directly onto the soil. This actually bypasses the slow process of surface decomposition by delivering a microbe buffet that seeps right into the topsoil layer. Adding a handful of finished compost or worm castings to this slurry seeds the soil with beneficial microbes that are just ready to multiply. In dead soil, these introduced populations face little competition, so they can explode in numbers almost overnight when conditions are right. Microbes need a moist environment to move, feed, and reproduce. In dry soil, they pretty much go dormant or die. That's why, especially in the early days of revival, keeping the soil consistently damp is just critical. Now, this doesn't mean saturating it until it's muddy. It just means never letting it dry out between waterings. Covering the surface with mulch right after adding your food sources locks in this moisture and creates a shaded, stable environment where life can really flourish. Mulch also serves as a slow-release food source. As it breaks down, it continually feeds the microbial community, sustaining the boom you've just triggered. The combination of immediate food from a slurry and long-term food from mulch is one of the reasons this process works so quickly. While nitrogen wakes up microbes, carbon keeps them working steadily. Without carbon, nitrogen burns too quickly in the microbial system, leading to a short burst of activity followed by a crash. Carbon-rich materials include shredded leaves, straw, and plain cardboard. When you pair them with nitrogen inputs, you mimic the natural balance found in forest floors and meadows, places where soil life thrives year-round without human help. One effective tactic is layering your nitrogen slurry under a thin covering of shredded leaves. The leaves act as both a moisture blanket and a steady carbon feed. Microbes then have both energy from nitrogen and structure from carbon, allowing them to multiply and build stable communities. While microbes are microscopic, worms are their visible allies, and their presence is a sign you're on the right track. Worms don't just process organic matter themselves, they also spread microbes through the soil in their castings. To bring worms into dead soil quickly, you can use baiting techniques. Sprinkling a small layer of overripe melon rinds, moistened bran, or partially decomposed leaves under mulch creates a scent and texture worms can't resist. Once they arrive, the worms will aerate the soil, naturally improve its water-holding capacity, and inoculate it with even more microbial life. They also speed the incorporation of surface materials into deeper layers, helping the revival process reach the root zone faster. If you want an even faster jumpstart, fermented plant extracts or homemade compost teas can flood the soil with active microbial cultures. These liquids contain not just dormant spores, but living, reproducing organisms already adapted to feeding on plant material. When poured onto a well-prepared bed, they colonize immediately, multiplying every few hours under favorable conditions. One quick-acting option is a simple anaerobic plant ferment made by submerging chopped greens in water for about a week until they break down into this nutrient-rich liquid. When you dilute it and apply it to the soil, it acts as both a food source and a microbial inoculant. The effect is honestly most dramatic in soil that's been bare and inactive, where the sudden arrival of both food and life can transform conditions almost overnight. The first few days after you've restarted microbial activity are, well, the most delicate. These new populations really need protection from extremes. Direct, unshaded sun on bare soil can heat the surface enough to kill microbes and drive away worms. Heavy foot traffic compacts the fresh structure they're building. And, harsh chemical fertilizers or pesticides can undo all your progress. Keeping the soil covered with mulch, avoiding unnecessary disturbance, and continuing to add small amounts of organic inputs each week will stabilize the revival. Over time, the soil life will begin building its own momentum, creating conditions that naturally maintain and even expand the populations you've introduced. When this is done right, the signs of revival appear quickly. The surface soil becomes darker and more crumbly as organic matter mixes in. Moisture retention improves, meaning water no longer disappears instantly but lingers, feeding plant roots. A subtle, earthy smell develops, a scent produced by actinobacteria and other beneficial organisms at work. Worm castings begin to appear, sometimes in surprising numbers, a clear signal that the underground workforce is busy. Even plants respond faster than expected. Seedlings sown into revived soil often show richer leaf color, faster growth, and fewer signs of stress, even without added fertilizer. This is the effect of having an active microbial network delivering nutrients exactly when the plants need them. The beauty of these hacks is that they don't just create a temporary burst, they lay the groundwork for ongoing health. Once microbes and worms re-establish themselves, they keep recycling organic matter, building soil structure, and storing nutrients in forms that don't wash away easily. Over time, the revived soil becomes more resilient to drought, more resistant to erosion, and more capable of supporting high yields without constant outside inputs. The key is to keep feeding the system, even in small ways. A handful of kitchen scraps under the mulch, a light sprinkling of shredded leaves in fall, or a thin layer of compost in spring. These are the steady investments that ensure your soil stays alive and productive year after year. Bringing dead soil back to life doesn't have to be slow or complicated. By combining quick-acting food sources, balanced carbon inputs, steady moisture, and targeted inoculations, you can create a thriving microbial community in a fraction of the time most gardeners expect. Once that living engine is running beneath your feet, everything in the garden becomes easier. Plants grow stronger, pests and diseases become less of a problem, and your soil begins to improve itself without constant effort. If you're ready to see your soil transform from lifeless to full of energy, try these hacks and watch the change happen faster than you imagined. And if you found this guide useful, make sure you subscribe to Hydrohaven and share it with a fellow gardener. Together we can turn every patch of dirt into a thriving, living masterpiece.